This is Don with Virtual 360 Images. Today we're going to be using Adobe Photoshop Elements 13. We're going to remove the background and replace it with another background using a 1957 Chevrolet Suburban that I took a couple weeks ago. You can tell by the picture this is the original that I took in that museum. What I'm going to do here first is show you what we started with, midpoint, and what our final results is, so you kind of have an idea as we start in where we're going to end up. This is what we started with. The next step as we go through the video will be to cut out the background and replace it. I normally do this using a green, which is a very similar green to what I have in a background green screen. I find this works well, especially we'll talk about it in the video, when to use layering and when to use just a plain color. So what we've done here, if I go back, you can see there's a sign in the window. I removed it. There's some blemishes on the car. Not blemishes, but reflections from the signs on the wall and stuff, and I removed all of those. And then also cut the windows through so that you actually look like you're looking through the vehicle sitting there. Also some of the glare from the fluorescent lighting that was on the glass. You end up with something similar to this with the background transparent, and then when I get all done, I replace the background with an image showing the car sitting in a driveway. So to get started, there's several ways to go about this. The first one is if you've got good clean lines on your picture, is to go ahead and create a layer. Create a layer 1 on top of your background. Do an add mask. Use as you use the magic wand and mark an area, and then do a cut. Instead of a copy and paste, you use a cut. It'll replace the background with transparent. As I'm going to show you here in a second, that there's too much overlap with the different colors that are in this particular one. It makes it almost totally difficult, almost impossible to do that with this particular one. So what I'm going to use on this one, I'm going to use the clone stamp, use the paintbrush, and along with the magic wand. The first thing I'm going to do with this picture is, now that we have it in here, I need to go over here because what I want to do is make the background green. If I come over here on the left hand side, my color palette, and I'm going to make sure the foreground and the background are the same green, because that way I don't have to bounce back and forth. But I use a green, about that shade of green that you see there. One of the first things I'm going to do with this picture, because it's a little bit on the dark side, I'm going to come up here to enhance. I'm going to come down to adjust lighting. I'm going to come over to shadows and highlights, click. Now this sometimes will make it look a little bit washed out. So I will come over here to the gray drop box where it says 35%. A lot of times I'll change that to either 12%, change that to 15%, usually not any higher than 15%. That just cuts a little bit of it off as far as the shine. Then I go back up to enhance, come back down to adjust and lighting, hit the brightness and contrast. We want to get this a little lighter, add a little contrast to it to sharpen it up. Maybe it's a little too much, maybe around in there, maybe a little lighter. And click OK. Now, keep in mind when you're working in Photoshop Elements 11, I use a lot of times, I use the control key. If I want to zoom in, I hold down the control and I hit the plus. Walks me right in. If I want to zoom back out, I use the Control- key. It's a lot easier than trying to use the slide down here, because if you go a little bit too far or do not quite enough, it kind of messes you up a little bit. So let's use Control-, Control+. Now I did look at this a little earlier. There are some blemishes on here. I thought what I'd do is maybe clean those up first. It's picking up some light, and I'm not going to get rid of all of it, but it's picking up lights from the signs that are in the background, also from the fluorescent lighting. Some of those I can clean up, which are very noticeable. That's like this one right here on the fender. What we're going to use on this, we're going to use the spot healing brush, and we're going to come over here. Remember this, the spot healing brush, what it does, it takes the surrounding areas and brings it back to the center and tries to blend it. And it does a fairly good job. This particular one, we're going to cover the whole thing, and I'm going to let off. It's gone. I'm going to come over here. There's one more here on this door. I can come over here. I can come down about to there, and it's gone. Some places you can't highlight the whole area. You might just have to do a spot. This side over here, I might do just a little spot here and here. Because if I do one long line right here, it's going to mess up the line on that door where it opens. There's a couple other areas that I can catch. I'm not going to do all of them. It's only noticeable by me. I think there's a couple up here on the hood here that I would like to maybe clean up just a little bit. I'm not going to try to remove all of the fluorescent lighting at the top. This here is from a sign that's up on the wall behind it. We can get rid of some of it. Do the best we can. Once that becomes part of the picture, I don't think anybody's ever going to notice that that has ever been done or touched or anything else. I'm going to come over here. I think there's one more. I don't know how much I can do with this. Yeah, that didn't clean up as good as I thought it would. Well, there it is. There's a number of spots here. This one here on the hood, what you do there is start on the left, click, move a little bit to the right, click, and what it'll do, it'll carry that line along with it. And eventually what you'll see is I've filled in that blank. And you can do the same thing in a couple other places too. So there's a number of places on here. You could take forever. If you really wanted to, you could probably work out all of the fluorescent lighting, but I'm not going to on this one. I've done a couple other cars from this same museum, and after they're all done, they come out looking pretty good, and people probably won't even notice that. Okay, Control-, and we'll come back down to there. You can also center your picture by clicking on the magnifying glass, come back down to the bottom where it says fit to the screen. Bingo, it's right back in the middle. The next thing I want to do with this, and we're going to do this quite a bit, want to save it. And I always save a lot of copies. Save as. We're going to save that one like it is. There's that save. And you'll find now and then I do a lot of save as copies. And there's a save as copy function that's built in the save as. Because somewhere along the lines, if I botch something up, I can go back to the previous copy and start over again. Now, I talked about the magic wand. Here's what happens with the magic wand. This happens whether you're using the mask in layers or if you're using it like we're going to use it in this one to try to cut out some of the background and replace it with green. I'm going to enlarge just a little bit. Now, if I bring the wand up here and click on this wall, the wall and all the objects on the wall, I want to get rid of it. You see what happens. There's enough gray in that wall that it bleeds over onto the vehicle. So if I was to do a cut on that, that's what I'm going to end up with. Also, I use the control key, Control Z. I use that a lot. I use a lot of control keys. So I'm going to put that one back. Even if I come down here on this kind of brownish rug and try to do the mask, that one didn't come out too bad. We'll do a cut. I'll get rid of some. I don't know if we come back here, we can get rid of a little bit. You want to be sure that you don't cut into the body. That didn't do too bad. Let's come over here by the truck, the red one. Click. That didn't come out too bad. Cut. Got some of it out of there. We come over here on the fender part. Cut. Got most of that. Got most of that under there. That didn't do too bad. Around the front here, around that fender, it got quite a bit of that out of the way. Now what we've got to do is maybe just go back and touch that up a little bit. And there's several ways to go about that. What I'm going to do is zoom in on that fender. Let's go ahead and get that front fender done first, and then we'll go back up through the top. Now, there's several ways. Now, sometimes what I will use is the cloning tool. I can come down here. If you remember the cloning tool, if I move that mouse around on the color I want to copy from and then paste to, I hold down the Alt key, hit my mouse button once. I can come down here, and the thing I can use down here is click once. Move the mouse up to about here, because that's pretty much a straight line. Hold down the Shift key and watch what happens between those two areas. Pretty much feathered that right out along that edge. I just keep moving myself down. I don't know why we didn't catch that right there. We'll come back and touch that up where we were copying from. That's where we picked up those lines. It's something to watch. Alt, hit the button, come back here. And you can clean out quite a bit of this. That's what happened here. Hold down the Alt, come up here, down here, hold down the Shift key, took care of it. So you got to kind of watch that. Now at the same time, I can also come back in here and go over here and grab the shapes. Now I can grab the paintbrush. I can catch some of this with the paintbrush. Might be a little big. Let's move this down to about a 10. You can do the same thing right here. That's wrong. And do the same thing right here. And clean that out of there. So you can use the clone tool. You can use the paintbrush. I'm going to use a little of both. I get down here towards the edge of the fender as I come down over it. And then you're going to take little short swipes with the brush as you come around the corner. And just keep working our way down. And then later you can come back and you can clean up all of this out here next to the edge. You can clean that out with a paintbrush. I get just so far along with it. I try to get back so many swipes with the paintbrush like that. And then I'll come back down to the shape tools and I'll grab the square box, and you can get rid of a lot of it that way, the big areas. But up next to the truck itself, we only want to use the brush. You can see how I'm getting rid of some of this fairly quick. But you do have to use a lot. It's a very time consuming. As you can see. Now if I zoom this back out, you can see we've got that edge pretty much done, and with the shape tool, which is like a big paintbrush, we get rid of a lot of that right there. Correction. With the shaping tool, the rectangle, we can get rid of a lot of that we don't need to work on later. Now, across the top up here, the same thing. See if we can get this back out here. This is where the tedious part is going to come in with the paintbrush. We're going to zoom in on the top. Let's go in just a little. The closer we get, the easier it is to work. Go back down and grab the straight line. Always do a couple samples here to see where we're at. We might move that up to a 15. See how we do. See up here, you're going to erase it anyhow. So I always kind of do a little swipe just so that I can see where I'm at. And if you're just a tad off, nobody's going to notice it, because hopefully it'll blend in with whatever background you got. Like right there, I did get off a little bit. I can go on around the other way. Remember, we're going to make turns right here, so we're going to take a little shorter bends around the corner here. There, I cut in too far. Remember, Control Z is undo. Undoes that. As long as you notice it right away. And if you jack it up, just kind of throw it off the other direction a minute. Come back and get it where you want it. Keep coming around. About as far as I'm going to go right now. Then I'm going to come back like I normally do, kind of put an extra brush line next to it, so that when I do try to take the bigger box, I don't cut into the rooftop at the same time. Now if I zoom back out just a little bit so you can see where I'm at there, eventually after I get all the way around the truck or the car, then normally what I'll do is then come back and put in the rest of the green like this. A lot of this is not rocket science. It's just time consuming. And if we come back out the rest of the way, see, we've started already up and over the top there. Eventually you get to a point where you can just close all that off. And then we have to come in and work down in this area, work our way right on around the other side. We're going to save that for right now, and we'll come back to that. At the same time, if you're going to be putting this on another background, keep in mind too, we've got a couple other things that we want to do with this one. This has a sign in the window. Eventually I'm going to remove it. We also have the windows through the car from the back side. We want to go ahead and open those up, so wherever you put this vehicle, you'll also be able to see the backgrounds on it. So I'm going to come back in here like this. We're going to bring it back up here. This we're going to get a chance to use the cloning tool and the magic wand and the paintbrush. We're going to use a little bit of everything here, because right now you can see that red truck that's sitting behind it right there. This is the window inside on the other side of the door. So I think I'm going to start out with the paintbrush. See how big the paintbrush is. Let's bring that back down a little bit. You get the paintbrush too big, and then you're more apt to make mistakes, and we don't want to make any more mistakes than we have to. So we're going to start going around that door frame. Get over here by the corner, little short ones, and start coming around the corner. Let's go ahead and come on around now. Show you what to do with that, because we're leaving little notches in between. Let's see. You screw up and go like that. We're going to come on down like this, and that window kind of curves like this. Then kind of come over the other direction and bring that back into that corner. That'll make a little clearer corner as you're coming across there. Now, this windshield, remember, the windshield is not perfectly straight. So we're kind of going to do this in chunks so it kind of curves along with that windshield. Oops. Don't think we want to go that far. That went further in the window. Undo, undo, undo. The window only goes to here. I'm going to bring this down to here and bring the bottom of that over here. This is the post that's inside the truck. That's the pillar. And we can also see around here is also windshield that also sees that truck on the other side. So we're going to kind of come around and then come the opposite direction when you want to square off that corner. And then from there we want to make sure that glass has, let's undo that. I want to make sure that glass is defined along that edge. Otherwise, when we try to cut the background out, it's going to... So we got a white line along there. That way it'll cut out. And I can bring that over like that. Nobody will notice that. Bring this over here like this. I'm just going to go ahead and fill this one in with the paintbrush. And I think I'm going to go ahead, while I'm here with the paintbrush, go ahead and do this outer edge. Didn't get it quite in all the way close, but then we can just kind of come along it again. And that's fairly straight right along there. When it's done, you'll notice that you won't notice whether it's straight or not, but we'll go around and correct some of that again. Now, if you'll notice along here, I have also, when I stopped and started, in a few places there I've left some openings. So usually what I'll do is come back real quick and kind of do one of these and just kind of close it up this way. And when you eventually close this off and try to remove it, just the short time we've been in here, every time we made a brush stroke, it put it in as a shape. We're up to 126 shapes right now. And you're going to work your way all the way around. You've got the back window, the front window, and we'll come back and work on some of those here shortly. I'll put that back to there. Some more of it. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go up here, Save As. I do not want to save it as a PSD. I don't always, because I'm comfortable with what I have. And I'm going to do a Save As. I'm going to save that. And remember what I said before. We want to save as with a copy. And we want to not save it as a PSD. We want to save it as a JPEG. Just to be on the safe side, I'm going to put a dash and I'm going to put a 01 in there. It'll give us one extra copy. Okay. Now I'm going to close this down. We do not want to save anything. You'll see what I have here now. I have the original. I have a copy. I have a copy 01. And I have the one we're working on. You remember right? There's the original. There's the one we lightened up as a copy. That's a copy of the one we just worked up to. You can see we got part of the windows done. We got up around the top, a little bit along the top of the fender. We always have a copy. So if we mess this up, we still have one we can always fall back on. I grew up in an era that copy, 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 back up, back up, back up. So, okay, moving on. As you can see, I tried to speed this process up a little bit, cut the time in the video down a little bit. I've gone ahead and outlined around the car and got that part of it done. I've cleaned up some of the stuff on the windows. As I zoom in a little bit, you can see up around the window here. I've gone ahead and worked on some of those areas. You'll remember there was a sign in the windshield. I've taken most of that out. Also, the sign was setting in front of the steering wheel, so I had to kind of recreate the steering wheel a little bit, the dash a little bit. The dash was orange where it kind of humps up. That's on the 57 cars and also on the Suburban. And I did go ahead and outlined the inside windows. So really all we have to do on that is to come back, use the shaping tool. We've already got it back to green, so all we really have to do on the windows now, because I'd already outlined those for you, was to go ahead and fill those in. There's the rest of that sign. Takes care of that. Let's go ahead and catch these other windows real quick. Okay, move on back. These are the two windows that are across the back. I missed a little area up there. And this last window right here. This way, once we make those windows transparent, whatever image we set this on, it'll look like you're looking right through the car and out the back windows. The other thing we have to do also on this is, I left a little bit of it in there, is some of the glare on the window. Is to remove that glare. You can see some of my other touching up here. We can clean up some of this. At a distance, you're not going to notice it anyhow. Need to come down here and pick out the background layer. And clean up some of that right there and there. Now, I use the cloning tool quite a bit, where I can come in here and actually find an area that matches over, and then kind of come over and slowly remove that glare. Some of the steering wheel, bring that up like this. Bring this part of the steering wheel up. And we can slowly remove all of that in there. I'm going to come down here and catch this. It looks a little rough in some of this area. If we go back and use the healing tool, it kind of smooths it out a little bit. I'm going back to the cloning tool. Remember the cloning tool? We hold down the Alt key, press the mouse button, slide over, press the mouse. We're going to come down here. I think I'm going to try to grab some of the color from down here, put it up here. We got to come in here and pick up a little bit of that steering wheel, bring the steering wheel down the rest of the way. You're going to find out that once this picture's done, some of this stuff isn't going to be noticeable, but the line would have been. So we have a little bit sticking out right there. There's that white spot. We also want to be able to get this right into here. And we can probably follow this line right over to here. Come down here, hold down the Alt key, move that over. Come down, hold down the Alt key, move that over and click. Come into this area, hold down the Alt key. Maybe kind of bring that down a little bit, come back up here and pick up the Alt key again, and come down through here like this. Now this part right here is going to go fairly quick. I'll come down to here. We're going to start filling in this green. Oop, I'll catch the tire. Probably a couple easier ways would have been to use the whiter paintbrush. Rather than trying to bring it out like this. Those are things you learn as you go along. I could probably go down here and grab the paintbrush, increase the size of it a little bit. How big we got it. We need a bigger paintbrush than that. Let's make it a 50. Yeah, that's a little better. Then I could probably come up here and clean that out like that. That'll actually get it out of there a little quicker. Same way up here, I can probably speed the process up right here. Get it out away from the car. Last thing you want to do is slip with your mouse and end up cutting into the car, and then you got to back out. Okay, I'm going to go back to the square. Let's go ahead and bring this over, bring this up. Because what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and finish that off. We can finish off that. Finish off that. I see a little bit of something in here I don't like, but we'll get rid of it. And we can come back into here. See a little dot right there. And I see a little bit right there. And if I go up here, click on the magnifying glass, come down here, click on Fit Screen, we're back to there. I think we've got the background and the green all taken care of at this point. If you notice, I did go ahead and saved it, brought it back up. That got rid of all of our shapes that were down the right-hand side of the screen, and we're back to just a single background. The next thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and crop this. Not going to use any given size. Bring it down to about like this. Bring this up a little bit. We don't want to close it completely in tight against the car. Maybe bring it down a little bit more. And click the green check mark to go ahead and finish that off. Now what we're going to do is we're going to come over here and grab the wand. Now what we're going to do, that we have it cropped, the green background, we do need to come up here and create another layer. So I'm going to drag this layer. In order to create another layer, a duplicate layer, is you put the mouse on the blue area, drag it up in this corner where the little folded, looks like a piece of paper is there, and then come down here, the eyeball on the second one down, click on it, it'll put a line to it. It says we don't want to see that. Now I'm going to bring my wand in here on the window, click, you'll see it'll highlight it. Then I'm going to use the Control X, which is the cut. You'll see they turn correction. You'll see that turned that transparent. Everywhere I have a separate little green area, do a cut, do a cut, do it on the back window, the next window, the next window, next window. See, once you get the colors all the same, it goes very, very fast, and we're done. The other thing now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here on Open. I'm going to import or add to is a background. This is probably one of the backgrounds I found that fit into this particular car. I looked at a lot of different houses and driveways and stuff trying to find the one that fit. This seemed to be the most appropriate. Now I'm going to go down here where it says bin, photo bin, click on that. Now you'll see down at the photo bin along the bottom I have both of them down there. Excuse me. What I'm going to do is reach over here, click on the Chevy Suburban with the transparent background, drag it up here and drop it. A little large. I'm going to go over here on the left side and I'll pick up the moving tool, and you'll see now that has that outlined so that I can adjust it around, I can resize it, I can turn it, I can move it around, I can adjust it up and down, I can move it just about anywhere I want. I can size this now to pretty much fit wherever I want in this picture. And that's not too far off right there after I did it. You can also turn it a little bit if you think it needs to be turned. I don't know if that does or not. Maybe it'll turn it just a tad. Bring it back down here towards the bottom. I think that's where it fits the best. And click the green check mark. And then go over to the side of the screen somewhere and click. Now, as you look at this picture, that was pretty quick, pretty easy. I think it's sized up pretty close to what we wanted, unless we want to go just a tad bigger. There, click the green check mark again, and click over on the side of the screen. You can also look at the windows. You can see, like the palm tree behind it, and the pillars on that porch. You can see those behind there. So you can actually look through the car as if it's sitting there. That's all there is to this. You'll go back and save it, and we're done. Go back to our desktop and you'll see the finished product right there. I want to thank you for watching this video. I'm going to do another video following this, probably a part 2, where I'm actually going to do a layer and mask, and where you use which has a lot of straight lines in it and will clean up fairly quick. So like I said before, it depends on whether or not you've got straight lines and the colors. In this case, the colors blended in with the wall, blended in with the car. As soon as you clicked on the magic wand, it just blew itself all over the screen. So this was the best way to do this one. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and look forward to you on the next video.